Everybody here? Well, good morning. Thank you all for being here. It's been a challenging year for our community on the stadium issue. There's no denying that. But today isn't about the past. It's about the future. It's about the opportunity that we have if San Diego and the Chargers can work together as a team. The opportunity that the NFL owners have given us. Today is an opportunity for a fresh start. I sincerely believe that we can create success for both the Chargers organization and the San Diego region. Things that we're working on and that we're working on to accomplish in the years ahead, to improve our neighborhoods, our roads, our economy. And we're not slowing down on any of those. And I strongly believe that we can get this done. We owe it to this community to come together on a fair agreement. Today is about a fresh start. Today is the opportunity to put the past behind us. Today is an opportunity to get to work. I think it's one that, as I've had the opportunity over the last night and this morning, one that San Diegans are eager to get started on. Now I'd like to introduce Supervisor Ron Roberts and our City Attorney Jan Goldsmith, and then we'll be available to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Ron? Thank you, Mayor Faulconer. Welcome to a new day in the stadium discussions here in San Diego. We now have an opportunity to sit down and to have a sincere negotiation. The decision by the NFL last night has improved the possibility of the San Diego Chargers staying in San Diego. We have a well-designed project to discuss with them. Now we're waiting to hear from the Chargers. And there remain many questions that need to be answered. But it is a new day. Think of how much this playing field has changed in the last 24 hours. I'm an optimistic person. Let's work together to build a new world-class NFL stadium in San Diego. And let's sign a deal that's fair to the Chargers and to the taxpayers of this region. By my Charger watch, the time is here to get this done. Thank you.
I think we've been here before, haven't we, talking about this a few times? We have, but so much has changed. Not just what happened last night, but sitting here today, we have a full-blown environmental impact report on a rather detailed plan and a project. And we have a financing plan. And the city has a strong negotiating team, which you don't see all too much, but because they're around the country a bit, but they have significant NFL negotiating experience. We also now have $100 million additional that the league has agreed to allocate. What we have needed, in addition to that progress, is somebody in the chair on the other side of the table willing to negotiate in good faith, and I think that chair is still there, and we're ready, willing, and able to get this done. It is doable. A plan, a legitimate, financed, agreed upon plan, can be presented to the voters within the time frame that the NFL has given us. Let's go do it.
Thank you. Be happy to answer any questions. Gene, and then Barb.
The issue of leverage. Who's got, who's in the driver's seat here? Who's got the hammer? Is this going to be even, Steven, under the table?
Yeah, it's
sense that somehow that he is coming back to the table with his tail between his legs and you have the upper hand?
No, I don't think it's about that at all. I think it's about an opportunity, as I said earlier, for a fresh start. About saying there was a lot that happened this past year, but we do have on the table a plan that's viable, a plan that works, a plan that we've done all the environmental and the financing plan that's put together. We approach this in the spirit of openness and cooperation, the spirit of when you work together, when you collaborate, you can get things done. I'm confident that we can do that, and that's the exact approach that we plan on taking.
Since last night, have you heard from Mr. Spanos or Mr. Fabiani at all?
I have not. I've placed a phone call to Mr. Spanos this morning. I think he may be traveling today, but I indicated I'm looking forward to the opportunity to get together, to discuss things positively and collaboratively, and I'm looking forward to doing just that.
Mayor,
Yes, Scott.
You said in the past that you wouldn't work on a downtown plan without a commitment from the Chargers to stay. What does that commitment imagine? Like what level of commitment would they have to make for a downtown discussion?
Good question, Scott. And we've said all along, and whether it was downtown or somewhere else, we're open to that. We have a plan that's ready to go in Mission Valley. Next to the trolley line, strong San Diego support, fan support, but we're open to other options. I'll let Jan address that, but as you know, there's some real challenges with the downtown site. We don't own the property. You need to move the bus yard. It's going to require a lot more time and likely a lot more money. But we've said we're open to discuss all of that. It just will take a lot longer.
What
Jan,
kind of
did you want to?
commitment would you expect from them, though? You've said that in the past.
A willingness to get it done, a willingness to sit down and say we are going to commit to this process and the timeline that it's going to take. Did you want anything more that you wanted? Okay, good.
So
Yeah.
the Chargers were all in behind a downtown stadium initiative and put their entire backing behind it, but Spanos was off negotiating with the Rams, kind of like as a backup plan. Would that be suitable as a commitment?
Like I said, we are open to options that make sense. We have a plan on the table. We're right in Mission Valley. It has strong support. It's ready to go. That is our best opportunity for success. But Wendy, we are ready to discuss other options and what it might entail to get us there.
Would you be willing to work with the Chargers on the language for a ballot initiative for downtown if that was their preferred preference to solving this problem? That'd be the first part of the question. Second part of the, if Briggs and Fry were to get the Chargers to back the citizens' plan, would you then also back the city?
We're willing to work with the Chargers on a plan that I said is viable and legal, and that's part of our message today, which is let's work together. Let's have those real discussions. Let's have that real open dialogue, and for the first time, let's talk about. We never got to the real ingredients of the Mission Valley plan because of what was happening in Carson. That's why I think today is important to say we have a fresh start, and let's talk about that. Dan, did you want to talk about any of the downtown items?
Well, look, we're not here to throw water on any proposal. When you're at a table and you really have a give and take, we want to hear all of the ideas. But I think what we're all saying here is that downtown is a little bit more challenging and takes a lot more time because we're farther behind. If the Chargers want to pursue downtown, we're happy to speak with them. Since it's going to take multi-years to get a lot of these things done downtown, we can't be in a position or put our city in a position where we don't know the Chargers are staying while a plan is being implemented. While we're at the table, we're open to different ideas. Now, downtown has its own challenges. It doesn't have an environmental impact report, for example, that we have in Mission Valley. It doesn't have the financing proposal that we have. Some of the property isn't in the city's title. So, and there are other issues, but we can all attack those if we do it together at a table. But we're not here to put any cold water on anything. We're here to open the door to different ideas, and that's important. But we want to be honest about it. That we're far ahead in Mission Valley than we are downtown.
Okay, very good. Yep.
All right. We could be faced with the potential of multiple initiatives on the ballot or ballot proposals this coming year. Assuming the Chargers come back to the table, you can work something out. you could potentially have initiative in June on
Yep.
that. You could also have the Briggs Initiative in November. And third, last August, following the consultant study on the waterfront convention center expansion, you said you were committed to working on that anew and putting a hotel tax increase on the ballot as well this year, if you could. So couldn't we be looking at potentially 3 ballot measures, and what about that?
Yeah, I think there's many different options, Lori, in terms of not only convention center expansion, but I think what we're saying very clearly today with yesterday's developments, let's use this as an opportunity to get together with a sincere conversation and to say, what are the options? What can we do? And then I think following that, you will see a lot more resolution on timing, a lot more resolution on site. How are we going to get through this? But we don't know that until we get together and talk and have that open dialogue. So it's hard to speculate, what will qualify for the ballot, what will not be. But you can't get to that conversation if you don't have a clear path on what you want to achieve here in San Diego.
But are you still, does what happened yesterday, does that change anything about you trying to put something on the ballot this year for the waterfront convention?
No, I think we still have an opportunity this year to expand the convention center. I think we have the opportunity this year to build a new Charger Stadium. And I've always believed that. Yes. Mm-hmm. Ed.
Mr. Mayor, if you can convince Mr. Spanos that indeed Mission Valley is the best option,
Yep.
as opposed to in terms of length, are you willing, you say it's viable, we've gone over this, are you willing to modify that plan?
Of course.
So that he feels he's not assuming as much risk, he's already got an extra $100 million.
Sure.
If he still feels, you're willing, it's not like, no, this is our plan.
Yes.
You're willing to modify that plan.
Yeah, I mean, Ed, we said from the beginning, you remember, we developed a viable plan with one side of input on this, right? I mean, as Jan was saying, we got some great people to the table, people that have been involved in 5 of the last 6 successful NFL stadiums, both from a financing standpoint, from a design standpoint. We're real proud of the facility that's been designed for not only the Chargers, but for future Super Bowls. But to answer your question, yes, of course, we would work with the team to say, what other designs would you like? What other things could be in there? And all of that is the options that you would do when you sit down and talk to each other.
May I follow up?
Sure.
I'm surprised that the NFL, they didn't reject him in Los Angeles. They rejected him in Carson.
I've learned, Ed, I'm never surprised at anything that happens in this issue over the last year.
That in addition to the $200 million that they normally contribute to a community building a new stadium, that they seem to come out of, we got another $100 million for you.
Well, look, look, that's a positive opportunity to get something done here in San Diego. You add that to the pot. I mean, and you add that to the ability of a fan base that has supported this organization for over 50 years, even in seasons just like this one that really weren't the best. But they came out and said, hey, it's part of the fabric of who we are. And so, when we look at opportunities here, and I truly mean that, we have a fresh start if we use it. Yes, David.
Yeah. Are you willing to go beyond the $350 million, or discuss going beyond the $350 million that you pledged in September?
We've put a fair deal on the table, David. We've said exactly what it's going to.
I mean, I think it's the question.
No, we've said this is our commitment. This is what we're willing to do.
Do you have any issues with negotiating with Mark Fabiani? There's been a lot of people that have said the Chargers need to let him go if there's any sort of success.
Look, that's Mr. Spanos' decision. But what's most important is not, who's across the table, but are we working together in openness, in honesty, and sincerity? That's what we need.
Do you think residents should oppose that citizens plan, the Briggs plan?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of legal issues that folks are looking at with it right now, and those are some of the concerns, Scott, that we're going to have to go through. That's one of the things we're going to be looking at.
Assuming it is viable, it calls for no public financing of the stadium,
Right.
which supposedly is written in such that the Chargers could become sole owners of the stadium, responsible for all of it, and the convention center. So, is there a way to swing that?
You make a good point, Gene. That in the initiative that's being circulated, it says no dollars available for a stadium.
But
so then you'd have to have potentially another vote to do that, which is longer and more convoluted.
Well, but is there a pathway for Goldman Sachs and other things for them to essentially get the what they call fee simple, I guess?
It's hard to speculate on that. I don't. Go ahead, Jeff.
Let me clarify something on the there is no Briggs initiative. It's not on the ballot. It hasn't qualified for the ballot. It won't. Apparently, they're saying it's November, but it prohibits public funding downtown. It does not prohibit public funding in Mission Valley, and we're kind of skirting around some of the issues on the Briggs initiative. I don't know why it has a great impact on what we're going to be doing with the chargers. The major impact that has been cited has been the environmental, that solves all the environmental issues. If you read it carefully, it doesn't. And I'm happy to go through the details, maybe not here, but just generally. In Mission Valley, the only benefit would be is if the project has no public money. And that's not the proposal. So whatever nominal benefit there would have been to allow it for a stadium in Mission Valley, it doesn't apply if there's any public money. Downtown, it replaces CEQA, but requires the same reporting. It's what's called an environmental impact report, the same mitigation and the same monitoring as if CEQA applied, and then has additional process that has to be followed. And it allows for any person to file a lawsuit and enforce it. I haven't really analyzed it. I'm not taking a position on the initiative, but it is not the panacea for environmental waiver. It's not. It's not what they did in Inglewood. It's not what they did in Carson. They had a specific project. They proposed that project, CEQA, be completely waived. Here's all the things we're doing as part of that project, and it was put into an initiative. This says, we don't care what the project is. You just have to do the same things that's in CEQA, and we'll call it a waiver. So it doesn't really help downtown. But at the table, again, we're not throwing in cold water or anything. We'll deal with it. There's nothing wrong with being able to having to do an environmental review and do it the right way.
In the public comment period, there were 4 or 5 environmental groups backed by a law firm in Los Angeles County, raised a number of objections and potential challenges. What do you see as that on the horizon? Is that fade away, or is that something you're going to
I don't know where they fade away because I haven't spoken with them and what their motivation was. But from the beginning, I looked at those as things that could be easily corrected if they're found to be wrong, but we don't think they are. We felt that we met the standard for an EIR. A lot of people, a lot of engineers and scientists put in a lot of time to make that EIR happen. It wasn't just done, quickly. It was done with a lot of people. So we added so many people that we believe that it's sufficient. Now, if there is litigation over the EIR, one thing that has changed is that we obtained the governor's approval for the expedited process, which means that this doesn't lag on and on. And what's more, an environmental lawsuit or claim doesn't stop a project. In most cases, it can delay it, not here with the expedited procedure. We've looked at the timeline so much because we were trying to look for a ballot vote in January.
Why could you make a January one but not a June one? Because there's no partner.
Well, we had all that done, and there was the ability to do it within the time frame. I'm not saying no, it can't be done. We'd have to look at with the same election lawyers we have in our office. Gee, what's our timing? But particularly if the chargers if we're at the table and they want to raise new ideas, for example, downtown, or they want to do things differently, well, yeah, we're going to need time to explore that and work on that.
Is language going to have to change for the June? And then is it possible that we could have 2 dueling measures on the November ballot?
I'll answer.
Yeah, okay.
It's hard to speculate, and there's so many moving parts to this in terms of what could happen in timing. But I think the answer to that is if we're able to sit down and forge a path forward, we can take a lot of the conjecture out of that. We can take a lot of the hypotheticals out of this. That's what you do when you negotiate and you're working earnestly together. And we sincerely hope that can happen.
Is the
preference for that November vote, perhaps because it's a presidential election and high voter turnout?
We've said all along we're ready to go as soon as we can get a ballot measure that works. That hasn't changed. And I think when you look at San Diegans, and even though it's been a difficult year, our opportunity when we work together, put all of that out front, I'm convinced we can achieve success. We wouldn't be here today if we didn't believe that. And I believe that, even with the year that we've had. And so as we move forward in the days, weeks, months ahead, if we come together, we can get this done. And that's the ingredient that we need. And that's one that I hope we can do.
Last question. You guys were pushing really hard for January. You found a way. It was tight then, and you
Yeah.
were going to make it work.
Oh, go ahead.
Assuming you go
Oh, that was back in August. Yeah, okay.
Right. But assuming you get back to the negotiating table and you don't pivot to downtown.
June's a no.
Couldn't you? Is it? Well, I was going to ask you. Is it
It's-
your goal to get
It's
it by
tight.
June?
It's tight, but if we're down the table and we say, can we make it happen? If it can happen, we're going to make it happen. That's what we were faced in January. We all tried, the county and the city, tried to put a vote on the ballot, have a ballot in January so that we could have a vote before their meeting, this January 12th meeting. That didn't happen. But if if we can do it, then we're going to do it. So, yes, we could probably fit something in, but I'm just looking at it realistically. It's tough.
Let me just remind you, we had a deadline. It was like early September, to make a January ballot. That means everything had to be done. It isn't just having an agreement with the charter. We've got to go back to the city council. We've got to go to the board of supervisors. I've got a county registrar of voters who's telling me you've got to be very careful on these dates. There's a lot in play here. It's unlikely that all of these things are going to happen by June, and it's not a question of whether there's a presidential or not. It's a schedule that an awful lot has to get done, and I wouldn't want anybody to have false hopes that that's likely in June.
You predicted that the Rams would invite the Chargers or have a partnership with the Chargers in Inglewood. That's what sort of happened, and now you say things came out a lot better than you thought.
Oh, well, I also said, Scott, that I hope I'm wrong. Now, look, if there was anybody that wasn't surprised by yesterday, I don't know who it is. There was a number of things.
What you predicted.
Well, I thought Kroenke, for day one, I have felt Kroenke is going to go to L.A. and the stadium is going to be in Inglewood. And I based that on a lot of experience as an architect and looking at the soils and talking to the soils engineers in Carson and everything else. So I discounted that. And I felt all along if Kroenke went, there was going to have to be another team. Whoever crafted this by the NFL did a pretty good job of coming up with this, including we'll give each of these teams a possibility of another $100 million. But if there's a big winner in this, it's Mr. Kroenke. Okay, he cleared the table. He's in complete control, whether he wants a partner or whether he wants a tenant. He gets to set the terms that he's going to accept now. And that doesn't mean that a deal is impossible. It really is going to come down to, are the Chargers in their own minds better off by going to Los Angeles, being a partner or being a tenant than they would be in what we are able to reach here in San Diego. So there's a lot of question marks, and I said that a few minutes ago. Still a lot of unanswered questions. What we really want is a sincere negotiation. I'm hopeful we can make this work. And it unfolded in some ways the way I expected. In other ways, I missed, and everybody else did too.
Gene, last question, then we'll wrap up.
That's my name.
Oh, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yeah. You're very optimistic. I'm not asking you to take Vegas odds here, but is making this happen a win-win? Is it going to be drawing to an inside straight? What do you think the percentage is of
No, I appreciate the question, but I'll answer it this way. Our chances of success, Gene, when we work together are astronomically better. And that has always been the ingredient that I think all of us and everybody throughout the region wanted to see happen. I'm hopeful that we can do that. We've spent a lot of time collectively. We've had a lot of San Diegans that have ridden this up and down over the last year. As I said, and I'll end on this as we started, today's the opportunity for a fresh start. Let's take it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.